Today on Built to Last, get to know a father and son team that builds and designs custom cars in the city of Albuquerque. Next.
I got a T-mount Ford in a flathead mill, 2 carburetors and a dress to kill, cyclone head and an arm clutch, top down top mansion budge, too much. Well, she shakes the panel rattles at about red line, and nothing in the world feels quite so fine. And only your dress when I go past, she built for speed, yeah, she built to last. Well, she built for speed, yeah, she built to last. Well, she built for speed, well, she built to last.
The Duke City is home to some of the most talented custom car builders in the world. Among them is Joe and Chris Martinez of Joe's shop, turning dreams into reality.
Hi, I'm Joe Martinez, and I was previous owner of Joe's shop, and now I'm letting my son take over.
My name is Krista Martinez, and I'm CEO of Joe's shop. Joe's shop is ran by me and my father, and we're about bringing other people's dreams to reality in vehicles. So if you could dream it, we can build it, or at least help you get further along on your projects.
What I was trying to accomplish in the shop, I was trying to set up a strong foundation for my son so he can keep building these cars and keep doing his style of customs that he can also make, and be an awesome welder that he is, and just create like good jobs, even if he goes on and hires a couple other people that he can train himself, just to keep it going. So it was basically just to have a business for him, and a legacy that he can just pass on to his son, you know. So I had to start somewhere, so I decided, I said, I got to start with a strong foundation, and that's where we're at.
So my passion at this shop is all about everyone else's smiles, and when they appraise our work. When we go to car shows in particular, we will people will see our work and they're amazed by it, and it's like an art of its own kind. They call it a rolling art. So what I get appraised for in this type of business is helping those get those smiles, make those dreams come true, and you know, and bring these old cars back to life, because there's nothing else like them anymore. With my dad growing up in the car scene, I would always want to be there and working on the cars, but he'd always tell me, you know, this isn't the path that I want you to choose, you know, you should go get this degree. You know, it was a really hard business to be in, especially back then. And so, you know, I did a lot of sports growing up. I pretty much played every sport there was out there, and my sisters always said I exceeded in everything I did, but really, I really wanted to learn more about the cars, so everything led back to the vehicles. Even when it came to high school, you know, I was getting bad grades, and I had to drop out of football. And you know, a lot of people were like, well, you know, that's you know, it's real hard to come across or to come over or overcome. But you know, the cars were there to keep me going and keep me motivated. And ever since then, I just wanted to continue on with bringing these guys back to life.
Well, in the future, I hope Chris can continue with the shop and he can grow with it. And also me, as far as me, I go home and I can retire at my house, and I have plenty of my cars I could build. But as far as where I want to see it go, I would like for him and his family to take over on it. And like I said, he mentioned before, to keep this legacy alive and keep these kids out of trouble and building these cars. You know, I think that's the best thing that you can do is it's hands-on, and it's just amazing how you can get these kids into, instead of the computers that they're just getting out of hand in. You know, their minds are just going another route.
So working with my dad in the shop like this, sometimes it's good and bad. You know, there's days that we both come in here and we get stuff done. We're real productive. But there's some days that, you know, and I grew up always listening to him and learning from him. So everything that he taught me, I would take in and adjust and do it in a different way, or if I felt like there was more of a quicker way to do it, I would go about that route or make it better, improve what he taught me. But sometimes I get the point to where me and him are both mashing our opinions, or we both have it goes this way or it can go that way, and unless we both connect and overcome and take from both ideas and make them into one, then we can then we work very well together. But like I said, there's a lot of times that it's good or bad, and at being my father, we love each other every day. At the end of the day, we tell each other we love each other. So there's never hard feelings when we leave home. Yeah, it's sometimes we throw wrenches here and there, but we can't let these cars get the best of us, especially being family.
It's great work with my son. I mean, it's amazing to see him grow from a kid I used to just yell at and tell him, hey, let's pick up this and let's move these cars. But now that he's a young man now he's grown and he's matured a lot, and it's amazing how now he and I are like we bump heads, just like a dad and father does, and what it does, it makes us stronger, so we can understand a lot more of each other. And we sometimes we sit here and we bicker back and forth about certain stuff and building cars, but that's going to happen. And like I said, at the end of the day, he mentioned too, we do not leave this day saying that I love you by the end of the day, and we make sure we do that toward the end of the day. Yes, in the economy that we are living in now, it's kind of difficult because a lot of people are not spending a whole lot of money on their cars, and we are in New Mexico. New Mexico, we are limited on what sources we have for car builders, and there's only a handful of shops that are actually doing what we do, and customizing and chop tops and air riding and hydraulics, and and there's a lot of those shops here in town that are still thriving to do it, so we want to push a lot more for that.
When we get these cars done, especially for ourselves, a lot of times we build these cars, we like to go showcase them at shows, but it's not necessarily to show off our car or our work or what we did to them. A lot of it is the people meeting. So when we take our cars out to these big shows in California or Austin, Texas and stuff like that, we get to meet a lot of other people that are in the same type of custom culture world that allows us to communicate with and throw ideas at each other and learn from each other. And I think that has more value than anything. Even building these cars is something that we all can look forward to, is keeping this culture alive.
You're watching Built to Last.
My dad was into music. My dad was always a hard worker. He's a carpenter. He did carpet laying and tile setting. He did these for years, and I got into it for a while. And he was pushing it to me, and he told me, son, he goes, it's a hard job to do. This is labor, and if this is something you want, I wish you would stay in school. I wish you would go to college and try something different. And I told him, I said, Dad, I'm gonna get into cars. And he's like, well, cars, it's not gonna get you rich. It's not gonna get you your mansion, and it's not going to make you wealthy. And I said, well, you know what? Cars is what I love doing. Cars is it's all I've ever loved. So it's just amazing. On from being a music, and I should have been playing a guitar, or I should have been playing the drums. I probably would have been successful at that. But I got good at cars, and I just had poured all my dedication into cars, and I learned a lot about them, and probably know too much about them, and it's just where I went, and that's where I'm at now. He was disappointed at first because he saw at first it was just you get in cars and you're just kind of toying with them, and there's days that he says, wow, son, you're wasting your time, and and then after a few years down the line I started getting into cars, and when I did my first custom build, he was surprised, and he was like, wow, I'm so proud of you. I didn't understand, and what goes through your head, and the vision that you have is totally different than my vision. He goes, and it's amazing. He goes, how talented you are. And so it went from there. And yeah, now to this day, he is proud of me. So to get a shop like this going, we started off very small, and I didn't have very much tools to work with. I just built with what I had, and there was days that I'd make my own tools just to get this certain part of the body done, or I'd weld some stuff. And some of the stuff, that I do, some of it you just trial and error. So again, when you have some sheet metal you work with, you go in the backyard, you find a piece of steel, and it might not be the prettiest piece of steel, but it's what we have, and so you just cut it, grind it, and weld it on, or clean it up, and hopefully that your skills of body work can come in and take over on that. So. The design I get are a lot of books that I used to read of all the old custom rod magazines and a lot of lowrider magazines. You see some of these cars that were just like dream cars. You're just like, wow, I would love to be able to afford one of these cars, or to have somebody build one of these cars. So I was inspired by a lot of the the magazines that I grew up and looking at these beautiful cars that were painted, and just the styles, and there's just so many different styles that was going through my head. So I visualized in my head of what style that I wanted to go with, and I started attacking that style, and I've been happy with the way it's been going so far, because it's not what everybody likes. It's not for everybody, but it's a style that I like, and it's working for me, and it's working for my son, and he has his own designs too that he has in his head, and it's great because I like to inspire him also to have his own style of cars. So the Dream 48 started out with a car that we were going to get married in, and so I was out to scout out a car, and it was supposed to be a convertible 48. That was my dream car, and my wife had the dream dress. So I said, well, we're going to go find this car. So we were on a journey to find this car, and I decided to find it. So this is the first time we built it, and it was done to a lowrider, and that was my dream car. So I decided this is what we're going to get married in, and then from there on, I tore it down again and made it into a convertible, and then I started customizing it, and then it just went off from there, and it turned out to be a full-on dream car that I would never would expect it, but I saw the vision before I started it, and by the time I got done, it was what I had envisioned. So. Well, the car was wanting to get photographed from a lot of local photographers, and when they saw the car out for the first time, we had Marco Patino who came out, and he decided, hey, this is one of the cars I want to shoot. Hopefully we can get this car into Lowrider magazine, where we can get into Rod and Custom, and so it took a lot of attention to it because of the colors that were brilliant, and the style that I did. So that was what the goal I was going for, to make it a car that you walk up to and you want to stare at it for 15-20 minutes, and then you walk away, and then you got to come back to it. That's the kind of cars that I like to design. So you can come up to a normal original 47 car, no disrespect to some of the guys that are spending a lot of money on these cars, very beautiful cars, but it's just, you'll see that same style, and they're beautiful cars the way they are. But me, I have to go outside the box, and I have to change it up some to make it a one-off car. Yeah, right now I'm working on a 1937 Pontiac Coupe, and this one right behind me. It's kind of been my nightmare for a while now, and it's taking me a little bit longer to build, because now I'm focusing a lot on the customers and trying to get a lot of their cars out of here. So I share my times on some Saturdays and sometimes a couple hours a day to work on it. But it's going to be another one-off car that I'm designing. I'm taking my time a little bit longer on this one because it's an older car, and the parts for this one are a little bit harder to find. So it's going to be another one-off car. Don't know what color yet. I haven't picked yet, but I'm working on a couple ideas. So. I think it's important to work on these cars because it keeps you motivated focused on keeping these cars alive, because these cars are getting a lot harder to find. They're getting more expensive. Sometimes you'll find them and they're just pieces of crap, and they're getting rusted and they're deteriorating. So it's important to me, in my opinion, to try to find them in the best shape as you can and hang on to them as long as you can. And if not, Chris's his age group can find these cars too, and hopefully that they can see the vision that we do, so they can visualize a car that could be done to their dream, you know, and they're getting harder to find out there. So it's very important to what we do. I think it's important to keep the tradition alive because in this generation that we're in now, the younger kids are just they're lost, and I think to keep this generation, we can motivate them to just keep building these cars and show them and make and wow them on what their creative minds can build instead of just video games. And they can build a car in a video game, but if you can build one with hands-on, I think that's important when you can get younger generation hands-on and teach them how to paint and how to do custom metal fabrication and glass and anything there is to do with vehicles. The most important thing to motivate these kids is driving these cars, so that way they're not just seeing them at car shows. Lately we've just been doing a lot of cruising since this COVID's been happening, so we want to just be able to get these cars out and drive them and inspire a lot more kids, because some kids don't go to car shows. So if we can bring the cars out to cruise, and we can actually motivate them, and I think that'd be important for them to see the cars. And Chris, for example, he drives his car everywhere, and he's got these flamethrowers on his car, and it turns everybody's heads, and all types of people that see this car, you know, they see this car and they're just like, you know, they don't have to like these cars, but they still turn their head, they give them thumbs up, they wow them, they want to meet them, and I think that's important, you know.
You're watching Built to Last.
Dressed in black and roughed up leather. She said, baby, if I asked you, would you give me a soul? I dropped right to my knees. With a kiss from your lips, you hold my heart right in your hand. You're that early trouble that will set my world on fire. With a shake from your hips and that hot look in your eyes, that's how a saint becomes a sinner for the love of a God. Come a little closer, she said. I promise I won't bite. The sultry scent of sex and sin will be my sweet delight. With a kiss from your lips, you hold my heart right in your hand. You're that early trouble that will set my world on fire. With a shake from your hips and that hot look in your eyes, that's how a saint becomes a sinner for the love of a God.
My 1951 Chevy, a lot of people when I first got it had a lot of doubt in it, especially because I was so young. I was 14 years old, and I sold my only commuting car that was going to get me to and from school to build this, which was a running car for a non-running vehicle. So of course my mom was like, "You're crazy," and my dad was happier than heck because he knew that I loved these old school cars. And so it started off as a barn find, really. I mean, it came from a real good friend, Cletus's shop, and it sat in the back of it with weeds taller than the roof. And when we pulled it out of there, I had all hopes that I was gonna get it going and build it just like TV, and unfortunately on TV shows, they cut time, and it shows like a lot easier and quicker than it is in reality. So this car was a real big learning experience for me, especially in that set of form, because I was able to actually put hands-on on it and learn every little part on it as I was going through it and replacing stuff. And I eventually did the frame, which has a Mustang 2 front suspension on it with tubular control arms and stuff like that. Disc brake rear end, I did the 4-link myself and everything like that on it. And that's where we got the ride out of it. It started becoming alive then. We got the motor in it, and it was the stance that we wanted and stuff. So after that, I drove it around for a little while, and before you know it, I was starting to get into Gene Winfield, Larry Watson, Bill Hines, a lot of these other guys that were doing these custom cars back in their time. And I said, well, times don't change, maybe I could bring some of these kind of customs back to life. And of course, my dad influencing me, and a lot of our other good friends that I grew up around started influencing me on it. And I was about 16 years old, and I got the Sawzall and cut the roof off my car. And a lot of people even then were like, "Oh, your car's running, you're gonna cut it now." And I did it. I chopped the roof down. I went about 5.5 inches on it. And that's when I opened up a whole nother can of custom world with this car. After that, it wasn't just done yet. I ended up doing the 55 headlights on it, which I built from scratch. I used pencil rod, and I found the bezels at a local swap meet, and it just ended up working out like an accident that came out of it, And same with the rear taillights on it. I have 55 taillights as well that I thought that would look pretty cool, that me and my dad had mocked up one night, and I put some tape on it, and before you know it, I was there shaping the metal and rolling it on my knee and getting it to mock up stage and tack welded. And that's when I started going to town on shaping everything too. I shaved the door handles and any other little pieces that I didn't like on it. And then after that, of course, my dad came and put in his touches on the paint, and we came up with this monster that I call Heartbreaker, because all these years she's been breaking my heart, and still. So I get this a lot. Every time I take my car out, whether it's just getting gas or going to a car show or something, a lot of people don't think that it's my car. They don't necessarily believe that I built it neither. So that's when we start to talking, and I explain to them some of the details that I did and that I've built by hand, and they start to believe it. So a lot of the reaction is in disbelief that this is even my vehicle, or that a youngster at my age is even doing this type of work. But in reality, I just really want to keep this culture alive. So I would be more than welcome to teach anybody out there, old or young, to keep this type of business, or I call it a hobby or passion, alive. In our work like mine, I was really trying to nail the California style custom with it, more beachside, more big white walls and steely rims. But I do notice a little bit when we go to these bigger shows, when people do come from out of state. We get people from Kansas and all these other states, and they all have their own little changes that they do to them that, in their state is real popular. And like us in New Mexico, a lot of people run Daytons. And when you take a New Mexico car and take it out, everyone will call it either an El Paso car, or because we're known for our lowriders. But when you see a custom like mine rolling around with the big white walls, it kind of has that California feel with it, and that's what I was trying to hit with it. But either way, people will call them lowriders. So a lot of inspiration that I have is, of course, my father. Growing up, watching some stuff that he's done is just mind-blowing to me. Some stuff that he's painted or chopped on a car or changed up is significantly different than anything I've ever seen. So, of course, I give it to my dad for the biggest influence on this type of work for me, but there's a lot of guys out there that are long gone now, like Bill Hines and Larry Watson, all these other guys that were out there that were doing these cars in their time, and gave us the ability to learn from them and look at them in magazines or on posters and kind of get the visualize of what they were envisioning back then. and we could try matching it with our own style to it, our own personalities. Of course, no, I don't want to exactly copy anybody's style, especially if it's something that's been done in the past. But I definitely would want to kind of add our own twist to it, and maybe one day become a legend of someone that can look up to, like we did. You know, someone gives them motivation to keep building these cars for. I think it's important, especially in our day and time, to keep these cars culture alive, is because if there's no one really doing it now, who's to say in 50 years from now that they're going to want to restore a car that's over 100 years old. So if we're restoring them now, maybe in 50 years from now or so, they'll find these old lost customs and want to restore them again because they already had hit the show stream, or maybe been in a magazine or on a film. And it'll encourage more people to keep these cars up and running rather than letting them sit in grandma's backyard or garage to rot away. In the future, I would love to see more people interacting with these cars and trying to bring them back to life in any way, shape, or form, rather than just putting wheels on them or getting them running, because people like that and people like us and this generation now can keep these cars around for future generations and for them to enjoy. You know, if not, then they're only getting more extinct. And I think that in my life goal, I would love to reach out to as many people and get as many people as we can into these type of vehicles and this type of culture, I should say. Yeah, so I mean, if you're into this type of car culture, but you're not 100% into it yet, you guys are more than welcome to come down and visit us at our shop and see it for yourselves, and maybe get an idea for your future project for whatever it is, and we could help you accomplish it.
The love and passion that Joe and Chris have for custom cars and hot rods is what makes their creations unique, admired, and built to last. See you next time.
When I said goodbye, left you on